Okay, everybody. Today we're talking about the painter of Revolution, Jacques-Louis David, French neoclassicist painter, we call it. Remember last week we were talking about the Rococo and the excesses of the court of Louis XVI and all that sort of thing, but it sort of drummed up a reaction. There was a time, as well as the American Revolution, people were taking government into their own hands, and so did our man Jacques-Louis David. He was actually a distant cousin of Boucher, who we talked about, who did all those very floral-looking fantasy scenes for the Versailles and Madame Pompadour and all that, but it sort of garnered a reaction that there was an idea that was true that these aristocrats were just getting too separated from the ideals of the people. There were a lot of philosophers at the time. It was the age of the Enlightenment, and people were just not going to put up with it anymore. So he's considered not just a painter of revolution, he's a painter of Napoleon. And a lot of those images that you see of Napoleon are made famous by David. And Napoleon, I'm not sure, I'm not a real history person myself, but I don't know how much you know about Napoleon, but he was not only the emperor self-declared of France, but he wanted to conquer the whole known world. So he set out to do that. He was a military officer. But the interesting thing about him was he wasn't actually from France. He was from Corsica, island off of Italy that had recently been conquered by France right before he was born. And he grew up hating the French. And his father, though, embraced this idea. He went to France and came in with a good enough crowd to get a scholarship for Napoleon to go to school and then eventually go to a military academy. And he had a very, meteoric rise to the top. But at the same time, he had these incredible appetites. He was bitter against the French. David was brought up more in an academic tradition. As I said, he was a relative of Boucher, but Boucher, though he gave him some lessons early on, he knew that his tastes were going in a different direction, and he found another master for him. And David won the National Academy Award and all that. And he was friendly with these intellectuals who were building the resentment that ultimately ousted the Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. They famously were told about the problems of the people, and she said, well, just let them eat cake if they don't have bread, right? So there's a drawing by David of her just before she's being executed with her arms behind her back in this peasant's outfit. But one of the things, one of the pieces of artwork that was instrumental in rousing public feeling was called the Death of Marat. Marat was a humanist, called himself a friend of the people, who wrote a lot of articles about the strife of the people and how they should, take the government in their own hands. And he was a close friend of David. And around the revolution in France, which was 1893, it was after the American one, he was assassinated, and David was just very devastated by this, and he made this one of the best paintings of his career, actually. I don't consider him one of my favorite painters, or even one of the best painters. He gets chided a lot by a lot of art historians, but he was very crucial. That's what I'm saying. He's a painter of revolution. Today is Cinco de Mayo. I'm not sure how many people know. Yeah. Even though the philosophers in the age of the Enlightenment were sort of anti-religious in the way they wanted there to be sort of a separation of church and state like they had in America. This painting was of Marat, and right at the time that he got stabbed. So Marat actually had a rare skin disease that required him to stay in the bathtub to relieve the itching and the burning of the infliction. So he did a lot of his writing in the bath, and he did this painting of him with a chest wound right here and a knife still dripping with blood on the ground while he's in his bath. But the interesting thing about it, art historically wise, is this hand that is fallen down and still holding the quill at the bottom. As you can see, there's a quill pen, though he is X'd out. And he's holding like the last thing he wrote in his other hand. So it's very fresh. It's meant to, it's considered propaganda type painting because it's meant to inspire the public. Rather than having a painting which is exclusively about the ideals of beauty and truth and all like this, this is actually had a serious political agenda. There's not a lot of things going on in the background. This is a man alone in his bathing chamber. And this painting has been compared to the Pieta by Michelangelo in the Vatican in Rome, where there's a famous hand draped down like this. So he sort of borrowed the imagery from religious art that had all that baggage of emotional stuff already, and used it to his advantage to motivate the people.